Hello and welcome to Season 9, Episode 13 of the Ubuntu Podcast. It's Tuesday the 24th of May and we're going to discuss what's been happening in the news and in the community. I'm Laura and joining me this week are Alan.
Hello, hello.
And Martin.
Hello.
So, what have you been up to, Alan?
I have been to That There America.
Oh.
Yes, I went to 3 events in 1 week, which it was quite tiring. It's taken its toll on me a little bit. I've come back with some kind of flu-y thing. So if I sound a bit weird, that's why. Saturday, Sunday, we went to John O. the internet's John O. Bacon's Community Leadership Summit, which was great. Really awesome. Really enjoyed that. Definitely want to go again.
Yeah, I really want to go to that sometime.
It was really, really good. It was really nice to have people from different communities in one room. It was like Red Hat people, Ubuntu people, Microsoft people, people from non-technical communities, all, talking about how to make their communities better and how to build better communities. It was really, really good. Then we spent 2 days doing a sprint within our team. We had just a room in a hotel and we're just cranking through loads of work for 2 days. And then the last 2 days, Wednesday, Thursday, we went to OSCON to help man the booth, the Ubuntu booth at OSCON, which was also super.
Nice. But also tiring, I imagine.
Yes. Well, yeah, but there was a couple of community guys, Jose and Ian. Ian works for System 76, and he had a whole bunch of System 76 laptops there, waving those around. And we also had a Dell Sputnik on the stand as well. Cool. And Mycroft as well.
Mycroft?
I met Mycroft. You know the little AI thing we've talked about in the past? We should talk about it some more at a later date anyway.
Okay.
But yes, I had lots to do in America.
Well, while you were in America, I was using my Android phone to buy some crisps from the future.
Wow.
Timey-wimey crisps.
Yeah, that was very exciting.
What do you even mean?
They released Android Pay on Wednesday, was it? Wednesday, I think, this week.
Oh, is this the thing where you wave your phone in front of a machine and you could buy things?
Yeah, so like Apple Pay earlier this year, and my bank supports it. So I tried it out, and I bought some crisps, and I was very excited, and I ate the crisps, and it all was good.
So for our American listeners, you bought some potato chips from the future.
Potato chips.
Okay, with an accent as well. Super. Yeah, excellent. And did it work? Did you get any problem with it?
Nope, it all worked perfectly.
Huh, that's disappointing.
Yeah, just worked really quickly.
And do the shops have to support it? I know nothing about this.
Okay, some do. There is a list of shops that support it on the site or on the app page, I think. And there's about 8 different banks that support it.
And is there a logo to look for?
Possibly.
It's not just like the card that you use that has like a little radio picture on the corner.
I don't think so, but it does work pretty much the same way.
Okay.
You just tap it. It's slightly odd in that when you don't have to unlock your phone to use it up to £30. So you have to turn the screen on because otherwise the NFC isn't on. But as long as your NFC is enabled, you just turn the screen on, and you can use up to £30 without actually logging in, which is kind of good and bad, I think, because £30 is quite a lot.
Yeah, but you're indemnified by your bank anyway.
I guess, yeah.
So
still, it's a pain though. But yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Should we get on with it?
Uh-huh.
And now it's time for the news. And in shock news this week, we have learned that Linux is the largest software development project on the planet.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do they measure that?
Well, lines of code and numbers of developers and rate of change, I think, are the metrics. So 21 million lines of code, around 4,000 developers last year from 440 different companies, organisations. And this one is about 11,000 lines of code added, 5,500 lines of code removed, and nearly 2,000 lines of code modified every single day.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's quite an interesting article, actually, that. We'll put a link in the show notes, obviously. They talk through the kind of bit of the process of how they develop the Linux kernel, and sort of how they manage the support of existing kernels as well as the new streams. I mean, I don't think it's especially revolutionary now, but it's quite interesting to see how they do it.
I remember seeing a talk from one of the kernel developers a long time ago, Alan Cox, who I know doesn't do kernel development anymore, but he used to talk about the way he processes patches is you email them to him, and he would then detach them, and he had a whole process in Thunderbird or whatever mail client he uses for detaching the patches and testing them and building them and then pushing them, upstream or to wherever the revision control was back then. This was a long time ago, back in 2007, 2008 maybe, at FOSDEM. But it fascinated me that like even then we had revision control systems, but they were still using old tools like a file attached to an email. Send me your patch. And I just wondered if some of them still do that. And I'm sure some of them do.
Possibly. You didn't mention that there was so much. It was more how they have the different streams. And how
supporting multiple releases of the kernel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that's painful. Like, being on Ubuntu, we support a number of releases of Ubuntu, and each one of them has a kernel. But there's tons of different kernel releases, and oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. So they said there's 21 million lines of code in the kernel, but obviously that's not included in every installation because manufacturers will just take the lines that are relevant to their device.
Right, and some device drivers you just would never load, like, the IDE controller or something, or some wacky display driver that you're never ever going to use, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so they said maybe like 1 million to 2 million on a laptop, maybe 2 million on a phone of some sort, and more at that level.
I wonder if there's any like private code repositories that are, because this is obviously a very large public code repository. But, you think of companies like Autodesk with AutoCAD, that must be pretty big. Or Microsoft Office, that sounds quite large. Or the stuff that Google have, that sounds pretty big too.
Yeah.
I wonder whether Linux is like leagues ahead of everyone else and then all the others are just in a little line much lower down on the graph. Or, I don't know, it's interesting, these kind of stats. But
you just don't know if you'd ever know, would you?
No, exactly. Or some, government installation software where the software is proprietary and secret and would never be shown to anyone. I can't imagine they have thousands of developers on it though.
Yeah. So Google are going to block Flash on Chrome as of about the end of this year.
What?
With only about 10 websites currently exempt from that blocking. So for everything else, you'll have to re-enable it yourself manually.
What's the rationale for this? Why are they doing this? Flash is used everywhere. Everyone uses Flash, don't they?
Well, they figure that it's old and HTML5 is better, faster to load and lower power use, and so they want to encourage it. And to be fair, Adobe doesn't exactly seem against it.
No.
Right.
They've just said we have to keep continuing to support Flash because a lot of people are using it, but they encourage people to use the new web standards.
And I think whilst they've got 10 websites at the moment, and they're going to review that, I think that the 10 websites are the 10 most popular websites on the internet at the moment that use Flash. I think that was the criteria. But I think they're saying that sometime in 2017, they're just going to stop doing Flash in Chrome altogether as well.
Yeah, so they've got things like YouTube, Facebook, Yahoo, Twitch and Amazon, but that'll be reviewed over and over and they'll take them out if they don't feel they warrant an exception.
It's funny how there was this whole brouhaha when the iPhone was first announced and Steve Jobs is up on stage, I don't know whether it was the iPhone or the iPad, and he's scrolling through a New York Times article and there was a block where the Flash content should have been. And people pointed this out. Haha, look, they haven't even got Flash. This isn't, how can this possibly be a success? They don't even have Flash. And the resistance that Apple had to Flash helped make it basically die on mobile platforms because there's no viable mobile platform has Flash these days. And now Google are doing a similar kind of thing and just saying, no, but a bit more of a friendly way, saying no and giving more time. I think it takes these market leaders like Google and Apple to do this kind of stuff. It doesn't matter how much protest and how much we all lobby and say Flash is terrible, it's bad, it's insecure, you should get rid of it, it eats all your power. Sometimes you just need to have a company like Apple to say nope, not having it, and this is great.
I think Apple were a little bit braver as well because they cut Flash from an emerging product that they were just bringing to market. Chrome are now a dominant browser platform, and now they're sort of, marching forward with you don't need Flash anymore, which is great. It's a good thing, but, I think Apple were far braver with their policy.
Right.
Was it 6 years ago?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all good news, though.
Yes, absolutely. Some bad news, unfortunately. Qualcomm has put a flaw in millions of Android devices.
What, intentionally?
No, I don't think anyone who works in IT deliberately sets out in the morning, looks themselves in the mirror and says, today I am going to unsecure the internet single-handedly. So no, I think this is a mistake, but they've made some modifications to a component that I don't understand in some software that I don't understand. And apparently this opens up Android devices to risk of attack by circumventing the sandboxing that exists on the platform.
Yep.
Ooh.
I just noticed this article's from the 6th of May, so we're really on top of things here.
and does it affect many different versions? Is it only the latest version or only really old ones that nobody uses? Or
seems to be all versions, more or less.
But only Qualcomm devices, so you're okay if you've got a MediaTek or some other chip, but if you've got Qualcomm, like all of the OnePlus phones.
Yeah, so it says it affects Jelly Bean and Kit Kat and Lollipop. And what's worse, it says, is that it's been around for 5 years, so those older devices won't be supported anymore, even though if they're still being used. But more recent devices from Kit Kat onwards are less affected because they've got security enhancements for Android in it by default, so it's harder to steal other apps' data through the flaw. But it's not impossible to cause some damage.
Ooh. Well, that's bad, isn't it?
Yep.
Moving on, some good news. After years of hard work, ZFS for Linux finally lands in Debian. So now, if you're a Debian user, you could create all your pools of disks and format them in using ZFS tools. So that you can store your data on those lovely file system and all the advantages that ZFS brings you that I don't know, but sound really good.
You sounded like you were really knowledgeable until you...
I was almost there until if any of you had asked me what advantages there are to ZFS, I would just refer to some online article that, yeah. Last time I mentioned ZFS, I mentioned Alan Jude, who... I said he made a good tutorial video that I found online that I watched him talking through some of the fundamentals of ZFS. And then he poked me on IRC and told me, you didn't mention that I also wrote the book.
Yes.
So Alan Jude also wrote a book.
Wrote the book, I think, is the book on ZFS, I think is the...
He said a book.
It can't be that many.
A book, yeah. Yeah. So this is good news. And... no controversy whatsoever when Debian do this, but when we did it, it was pitchforks at the ready.
I think there are still some commentators out there that are saying that Debian are wrong to do this as well, and for some of the same and similar reasons. But yeah, the fallout isn't as grand as when Ubuntu announced it.
We blazed a trail with pitchforks.
Debian used some of the Ubuntu patches, I think, anyway.
Right, which makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of common developers between the two.
Yeah.
When I clicked on the link and went through to the Debian packages, I thought, hello, I recognise that name. It's someone who works at Canonical. So yeah, that's nice. It's nice that we're sharing rather than re-implementing and doing the same thing over again. That makes total sense.
So Ubico has replaced all their open source components with proprietary closed source code in the YubiKey 4s.
That's bad.
This sounds like something that you'd know about, Alan.
Well, know about in that I have a YubiKey and I use it for my two-factor auth.
Yeah.
And I bought it because other people in the security industry suggested it was a good idea. And people I trust who know more about security than I do say, do this. So I did that. And now we see Greg Crow-Hartman from the Linux project has reshared an article, which we'll put a link to in the show notes, about the fact that the newest generation of YubiKeys, the YubiKey 4, and they have multiple different types, but this generation has some components that are non-free and links to a GitHub conversation where someone was suggesting how wouldn't it be good if you did this in the YubiKey, and then it transpires through the conversation on the GitHub issue that actually it's non-free, and then the conversation is just stopped. You know? So immediately after someone gets a bit agitated and gets a bit ranty at them, it's just, right, we'll close the issue. So that's a bit sad.
Yeah, and some of the comments that have been made in this discussion thread are that, you know, if you're looking at implementing new cryptography solutions these days, it really has to be based on open source so that it can be stood up for peer review and be a transparent technology. So this seems like a real retrograde step and is deeply unfortunate. Yeah,
it's a real shame. So everyone's now looking for the alternative option, and there are some alternative options listed in the post. So I think we'll keep an eye on that. And apparently people who have the current generation YubiKeys are fine. It's just, you know, if you were considering locking yourself into that environment and then upgrading, you might want to think twice about that and maybe look at one of the open source alternatives.
Also this week, Firefox has announced that they're going to unveil their test pilot initiative, which will allow you to try new in-development features in Firefox before they've been released.
Ooh. Is that like Firefox Nightly?
Well, I don't know what the difference is. I'm wondering if it's like a semi-stable build that's sort of got new in-development features cherry-picked into it. But I think the idea is that it's a platform by which people can test the new stuff before it's been released and get feedback from users as to how it's working for them, which is smart, because I have a new appreciation for actually encouraging people to use beta software and give you test results, you know, before your product goes final.
Right. And I mean, given it's a web browser, which is a crucial part of everyone's daily life these days, it does make sense that you want to roll those kind of things out. I know some other people do like A/B testing and give some of their users new functions and some of their users the existing functions to see, you know, who has the you know, to test those features out with a selection of the audience, and others use canary builds.
Yeah.
You know, so it's good. It's a good idea. I quite like the idea that Mozilla are innovating with their browser, because it's felt like for some time that they haven't really. I may be out of line saying that, and some people may say, well, they're innovating with electrolysis or whatever it's called, but I haven't seen that, and I haven't seen much in the way of innovation come from Mozilla in the browser for a while. It seems pretty stagnant, so it's nice to see new and interesting features.
Yeah.
As a footnote to that comment, I'm using the new Firefox in Ubuntu 16.10, which is now built against GTK3, and it's much more responsive and smooth and snappy than it's been for a long, long time.
Cool.
Finally, Amazon are targeting YouTube with a new online video hosting service. They'll allow video producers to put their content up and get paid for their content. You can sell or rent your content through Amazon to Prime members. I think there's also an ad-supported version as well, so much the same as, you know, YouTube have with YouTube and YouTube Red. It's either subscription or ad-supported. And they have some partners already announced, so existing content can be on their network already, including Condé Nast, How Stuff Works, Samuel Goldwyn Films, and Pro Guitar Lessons. I don't think I'll be looking out for this anytime soon, but if you're into... I don't know.
I included this because I think it's important for one reason, and that's that YouTube doesn't really have a competitor at the moment, and it needs somebody with a household brand name like Amazon to step up and really try and compete with them on the same terms in order to try and ensure that Content ID doesn't just become this weapon that gets used against the content creators.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that YouTube doesn't have competition. I think there's a certain set of niche competition, like
yes, there
Vine for very short and often comedic things. There's Twitch for gaming. There's Vimeo for people who want to distribute like really high quality HD streams of films.
Is that the point of Vimeo?
I think so. Yeah. Whenever I watch something on Vimeo, it's always someone with a showcase of their content, or it's an actual film. Something that's being shown off at a film festival or something like that, or a 3D rendered thing or something like that. I generally find more of that on Vimeo than I do on YouTube. But I think there are niches. I think you're right. There isn't a general purpose. There used to be lots before Google Video came along, before YouTube came along. There were lots of them. It all shook down, and YouTube are the only people doing it now, which is a bit of a shame, like you say.
So I'm just wondering if, Amazon would object to out of copyright music from 1927 being used in publications on their new service, and I shall have to find out, I think.
Yes. I think that's the end of the news, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
And now it's time for the community news and events. The Ubuntu France Loco team rocked out last weekend at a music festival, or crikey, GCSE French coming up, Papillon de Nuit, I think. And there's loads of photos. They do this a lot in the French Loco. They pop up a little stand with like little help booths and like an internet cafe and all that kind of stuff. And it's all got Ubuntu branding all over it. And whenever you look at the photos, it's like hundreds of people there, and it looks like super active, and we should learn something from them.
But we really should, because what they're really good at doing is they do these events for the enthusiasts, the people that are already using Ubuntu, but they also find these events that they can go to which are outside of that sort of bubble. Yeah. And showcase Ubuntu to normals, and that's what I really love about what they've done this last weekend, is take Ubuntu to a rock festival or music festival and introduce it to people who otherwise might not ever find out about Ubuntu, and I just think that's brilliant.
And give away tattoos from... Is that
yes, and that. Yeah.
Are they iron-on tattoos or something?
Well, I don't think they're iron-on because that would hurt.
Yeah.
But loads of people wearing tattoos, and it's like, wow.
Awesome.
In other news, Bayaboo Hollywood melodrama and Ubuntu have been featured on NBC News. Canonical's Dustin Kirkland has written about a script that he wrote years ago that turns your Linux terminal into something somebody might think looks like a hacker movie, and he's recently seen it used in an NBC News article about ransomware, and we'll include a link to the show notes for that.
I had no idea Dustin wrote Hollywood, and I'd only heard of it like a while ago as a bit of a joke. I didn't realize it was an actual thing he wrote, to make your screen look like a hacker screen would look in the movies.
And it's now come full circle.
Yeah, and now someone's actually using it to look like a hacker screen in Hollywood.
Actually, no, full circle will be when it appears on screen in a Hollywood movie.
Yeah, true. But it's nice, and I don't know who alerted him to its use or whether they asked him for its use or what, but I love seeing it when news articles... There was another one recently where... there was an article where there was a camera just pointed at someone who was using a computer. So he got, I think it's called Hacker Type, a program on his computer, and they were filming him to look like he was using the computer. So he was like tapping away on the keyboard, and I think it's called Hacker Type. one of our listeners will write in and let us know if I'm wrong on that. And it just puts code on the screen, one letter at a time as you press, but it's not the letters you're pressing. It's just like code appearing.
So it seemed really cool.
Yes, but he was like smacking the keys and dragging his keys like a piano keyboard, like up and down the keys, just like being really stupid. And they carried on filming him while he's doing this, and there's all this code appearing on his screen. It's brilliant. So I love this stuff when we kind of break out of our little nerd niche and appear on TV in ridiculous ways. I like that. We should have more of these.
More of this.
Yes.
Aaron Honeycutt has blogged about his experiences of using Ubuntu Touch on his Nexus 7 2013 Wi-Fi edition. Some good things, some bad things. I think he said that it was, for a while he couldn't rotate. I don't know if he can now.
Yes, you can.
You can now. It shows a picture now.
Yes.
Which is good because like a Nexus 7 is really good for portrait use. Mark will attest to that.
Yes, Mark used to use it for following along with the show notes on his Nexus 7.
I could just see him sitting there with it in one hand.
This was nice. It's a nice little article from Aaron. He's a community member from the States, and I think he saw all these posts about the BQ M10 and wanted to point out, you don't have to actually buy a BQ M10. You can use a Nexus.
That is kind of the most important point, is that you don't have to spend, 250 euros on a new device. You can repurpose a relatively inexpensive Nexus 7 and help test and experience the new stuff that way.
Speaking of testing, it's been announced that the Ubuntu Touch over-the-air update 12 will be more about fixes than features. We've got a link to an article from Softpedia which quotes Lucas, who's part of the release team for Ubuntu Touch, and he sends mails to the Ubuntu Phone mailing list, which is becoming quite an active mailing list, and I know many people don't actually subscribe to the list anymore because it's so high. Lots and lots of posts every day. So he also posts it on Google Plus, and some people pick that up and create news articles out of it, and that's what Softpedia have done. And one of the things they've highlighted is that the next over-the-air update after the one that's about to land. So there's one that's due to land this week or next week. So the next one in 6 to 8 weeks' time is due to fix a bunch of bugs in Ubuntu. I'm just trying to find the post, but I can't find it right now. But the list in the milestones. So we keep a track of all the bugs in Launchpad. There's a project called Canonical Devices System Image. And there's a list of milestones, and milestone number 12 is obviously for this over-the-air update 12, which is scheduled for some weeks from now. Current says it's expected 13th of July, and there is a ton, 152 bugs have been targeted to be fixed by then.
This is music to my ears.
I'm pretty sure, well, hold your horses there. I'm pretty sure some of these won't be fixed by then. However, scrolling down the list, there's a whole bunch from about 2/3 of the way down, which are either in progress or fix committed already. So they've already had the fixes for these bugs landing in the projects. They just haven't been baked into the image. So it looks like we're already doing rather well. There's a good 50% of them that are either in progress or done. But then there's some more at the top of the list, which are high priority or critical. There's some of the names of some of these bugs are rather amusing. There's one of my two favourites in this list. One is unexpected display on. I quite like. And another one that I quite like is Gmail web app keyboard hide and seek. So, let us know what your favourite bug title is from that list. And, we'll bring it up next week. We should have a segment about favourite bug titles, because some of these are just comedy gold. They really are.
Be a good way
It's
to
a good way to,
get people looking at the bugs list as well.
Yeah.
spot on.
We used to have a thing, I think Mark used to call them celebrity bugs, when they get a lot of heat and they get a lot of discussion and people link to them from blog posts and stuff. So sometimes it's good to get a lot of attention, sometimes not so good. But
maybe people will start being more creative with their titles. Which
maybe.
may be a good thing or not as well.
Yeah. Well, you remember them, don't you? Yep. Can't print on Tuesdays. Everyone knows that bug now.
Is that a real bug?
Yeah, that is really a bug. So I'll put a link in the show notes. I've added a link in there to Milestone 12, so you can look through and pick out your favourite bug title.
But wait. Why can't it print on Tuesdays?
Oh, that's
That's
a
a
long
segment.
story.
Yeah.
That's a whole segment.
My favourite one is can't send emails farther than 500 miles.
Yes.
Oh, we definitely need a segment on this.
Yes, we do. Should we move on to the events?
All right. Yes, so on the 10th and 12th of June this year is the South East Linux Fest, SELF, and it's a community event for anyone who wants to learn more about Linux and open source software, and that's in Charlotte, South Carolina in the United States of America.
Sweet. There's a Red Hat Summit on the 28th of June to the 1st of July in San Francisco, California, USA. And the goal of this is to showcase the latest and greatest in cloud computing, platform virtualization, middleware storage, and systems management technologies. Ding! Buzzword bingo.
Yeah.
Moving on.
We've got Texas Linux Fest taking place from the 8th of July to the 9th of July in Austin, Texas, and it's an annual community-run conference for Linux and open source software and hardware users and enthusiasts from around the Lone Star State. I won't do the accent. The website is texaslinuxfest.org.
That's going to be hot. It was hot last week in Austin. It's going to be boiling in July.
Yeah. And LinuxCon Japan will take place on the 13th of July to the 15th of July in Tokyo in Japan. And this is the premier Linux conference in Asia, and it brings together a unique blend of core developers, administrators, users, community managers, and industry experts. It's lucky we're no longer the Ubuntu UK podcast, really, isn't it?
Yeah, we need to find some UK events to promote. If you have an event you think we should promote, send us an email, show@ubuntupodcast.org. I'll tell you what, just listen to Laura tell you all about it.
We love getting your feedback, so please send it to us. Even the pointlessly mean stuff makes us laugh. If it's short, tweet us on @Ubuntu Podcast. If it's less short, but please no essays, email us on show@ubuntupodcast.org. If you'd like to discuss some of the things we talk about with other listeners, post on our shiny new subreddit at reddit.com/r/Ubuntu Podcast. Or you can just leave a comment on the relevant show notes on our website, ubuntupodcast.org. And that's all for episode 13. We'll be back next week when we'll be interviewing the lovely Barton George of the Dell Sputnik Laptop Project, and we'll bring you some command line love and all that feedback you keep sending us, which is awesome. Thank you very much. We'll be telling you all about it next time.
Sweet.
Excellent.
Barton's lovely. Look forward to that.
Yep. He helped
Can't wait.
fix my laptop.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right. Well, see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Stop recording.